Now we are going to discuss the assistive technology continuum. This is a term that we have kind of come up with to describe the large breadth of assistive technology. Assistive technology is not just the incredibly high-tech, crazy expensive devices that we see on television. Assistive technology has a wide range of functional needs, has a wide range of prices, has a wide range of technological advancements. So let's get started. All right, so as you see here, we have a couple images on the screen. First, we have an image of Post-it notes. Below that, we have an ergonomic keyboard. And below that, we have a Braille Note Touch refreshable display. So 3 very different assistive technologies, right? And it reflects next to it the kind of gauge that we have, right? So we have a light tech gauge, and it shows almost like a gauge that's close to the empty. And then we have a mid-tech gauge, and the arrow is facing up. And then we have a high-tech gauge, and that gauge is facing to the right, almost as if it's like full, like a gas tank, right? And so we have the categories here: light tech, right? Easy to use, easy to learn, readable, readily available, affordable, right? We have mid-tech, which is a more sophisticated system, requires some training, and may cost a bit more than a light tech device. And then we have high-tech, right? The Braille Note Touch refreshable display. It's an advanced electronic device. It needs specific training sometimes, and it may require ongoing support from either a professional or a support person or a family member. So here I have some examples of light tech systems, light tech tools that people use on a daily basis. And these may be things that you personally use every day. So first we have on the screen our highlighters of different colors. Highlighting text, keeps people organized, keeps people on task. It's incredibly helpful to kind of separate text from other text. So highlighters are a great assistive tool. Again, focusing on kind of writing, we have pencil grips. Pencil grips are an ergonomic way for us to grip pencils. Sometimes, it's really difficult to grip a tiny itty bitty pen or pencil and write with it. And so having a pencil grip or a pen grip helps kind of our hands hold on to that. We also have a slant board for someone that needs the paper to just be propped up a little bit. And finally, we have a hard copy of a communication board. So this is a light tech version of a communication system. Some people that are nonverbal do not use their words to communicate. They use assistive devices like speech generating devices, but sometimes, it's really important to have that hard copy in, background just in case. And many people start off with a hard copy communication board and then advance to a mid or high tech communication device as they age. So now we have mid tech tools. So the first tool we have on the screen is a Big Mac communication switch. And this is a switch, a button, right? You press, and what comes out is a pre-recorded message or pre-recorded word or meaning. And these are great in situational settings. To have a Big Mac switch could be next to the refrigerator, right? If you want, if your child or if whomever needs to use this switch to communicate wants food, they can press it and it says food, or I want to eat. It has a pre-recorded message. Again, we have another communication. I'm going to stick with the communication devices. So on the other end of the screen, we have a GoTalk 20. So this is a mid-tech communication device. Again, it has a communication slip or a screen, right? You press the button, and then the GoTalk 20 will then say the word or say the concept that is recorded. And then finally, we have in the middle the adaptive toy. So there are many different versions of adaptive toys, many different versions. This is a dice, right? And you can see that there's images around it. You press the switch, you press the button, and then it goes, right? So it's a single reaction adaptive toy. There are many different adaptive toys. Some of them could be just single action. You press it, it goes. And there are other toys that are more complex. in the high-tech range that we could talk about. Finally, we have our high-tech tools. So like I mentioned prior, in the prior screen, we have our Braille Note Touch refreshable display. So that is an incredibly high-tech tool. People who use Braille, right? So the display it is a refreshable Braille display. So people who use Braille, you can use this tablet and they can read the screen through the Braille that is constantly being refreshed. This is an incredibly advanced tool. It does require support, as our definition kind of says. It's not very easy at first, but once you get to use it, it is an incredible tool. We have the Tony Dynavox Eye Gaze Access. This is a speech generating device. So this is on the high-tech end of speech generating devices. We had the communication board at first, then we had our GoTalk 20, now we have the Tobii Dynavox. So the Tobii Dynavox is a tablet where you can press the button and form the sentences, and then it speaks all of the words out. You can also press the button, then it speaks the whole sentence that you have written in the communication bar. These are incredibly useful and customizable and modifiable high-tech devices for speech generating and communication. And finally, we have on the screen an eye tracking mouse. So the Tobii Dynavox and the eye tracking mouse have this one thing in common, where the Tobii Dynavox Eye Gaze Access, you can control the screen with your eyes and use different mouse clicks, whether that be a blink or it be a stare, right? And your eyes gaze in the direction of the tablet, and then you can control the screen in that way. An eye tracking mouse is an external version of what the Tobii Dynavox has already built within it. So the eye tracking mouse uses your eyes. You could blink, you could stare, you could gaze, whatever that click function might be programmed that you have to program, right? To control the computer or a laptop or a tablet, whatever you have the device hooked up to. So that is an incredibly advanced technology, and it does take a little bit of support to get used to. But again, once you get used to it and once you practice and you're able to use that device, it is a game changer in accessing technology. So how we go about finding solutions, right? So we just talked about all of this continuum. We talked about all of these different devices. And sometimes it's really complicated. And it's important to recognize the categories low, light, mid, and high tech when trying to find a solution. So the first category that we have on the screen is that we look at the person, right? There's a little icon of a person on the screen. And underneath the title person, it says abilities and challenges. So what do they do? What does that person do well and predictably? That could be definitely can identify where a button is and can push the button, right? That is an ability. Or can grip things with a fist rather than with a couple fingers, right? Can use the whole palm to grip something. That is an ability. But a challenge could be, oh, I can't really hold a pen because it's so small, or I can't control the pen, it falls out of my hand, or I can't really locate this button, I can't see those colors, or the contrast of those colors aren't enough, right? These are things that we think about. What are the abilities and what are the challenges? Then the next thing is we think about the task. That's the second category on the screen. There's an icon of a paper with some check marks and some open boxes. So underneath the title task, it says needs and expectations. So what are the needs of the person? In a school context, the ability to be able to write is important, right? That is a need. You need to be able to write or type or be able to do some form of written work, right? So can't hold a pen or pencil. Maybe a pencil grip isn't good enough. Maybe that's not big enough. Maybe you need something that allows you to grip the whole thing, right, with your palm. So those are the needs that we can talk about. Or you expect to be able to play with a toy. An adaptive toy, and you have a switch button, but you can't really find the switch button. That's the expectation, is you want to be able to play with the switch toy, right? So then we go to our third category and we consider assistive technology, right? What are the possible solutions? There we have an icon with a light bulb that is flashing. And And here we can figure out that, okay, maybe a pool noodle around a pencil would allow you to hold the pencil with your entire palm. Or perhaps changing the color contrast or changing the color of the button to be a color that you can easily identify, or even putting a black cardboard or paperboard behind the switch and then gluing the switch to the paperboard so that you can even further kind of exaggerate that color contrast to have that be identified. Many, countless solutions that we can come up with assistive technology. So finding a solution, right? Every person is unique. And we are all working within specific contexts of tasks and environments. When universal design is not enough to give everyone equal access, we use a person-centered process, right? That person-centered process that we just went over. This is incredibly important, right? As I was giving some very, very minor examples in that previous slide, every person's unique. Every person has a very unique body, very unique abilities, very unique contexts, and people are comfortable or not comfortable with technology. And so we have to respect where people are and where they're at. There's no one-size-fits-all solution for assistive technology, which is why it's so important to have that service piece, like I mentioned previously, to have that conversation with that person, what works best, what doesn't work best, and really find the appropriate solution for that person, and not necessarily say, oh, you need a communication device, use a Tobii Dynavox, because that might not be someone's preferred method of communication, or even they might not know how to use that communication device.